all mankind. Being all equal and independent, no one ought to harm another in his life, health, liberty, or possessions. The only defense against the world is a thorough knowledge of it. Where there is no law, there is no freedom. New opinions are always suspected and usually opposed, without any other reason but because they are not already common. Education begins the gentleman, but reading, good company, and reflection must finish him. No man's knowledge here can go beyond his experience. The end of law is not to abolish or restrain, but to preserve and enlarge freedom. Parents wonder why the streams are bitter when they themselves have poisoned the fountain. The actions of men are the best interpreters of their thoughts. Every man has a property in his own person. This nobody has a right to but himself. Government has no other end but the preservation of property. I have always thought the actions of men the best interpreters of their thoughts. To love truth for truth's sake is the principal part of human perfection in this world, and the seed plot of all other virtues. An excellent man, like precious metal, is in every way invariable. A villain, like the beams of a balance, is always varying, upwards and downwards. He that will have his son have respect for him and his orders must himself have a great reverence for his son. The improvement of understanding is for two ends. First, our own increase of knowledge. Secondly, to enable us to deliver that knowledge to others. To give a man full knowledge of morality, I would send him to no other book than the New Testament. It is one thing to show a man that he is in an error, and another to put him in possession of truth. Virtue is harder to be got than a knowledge of the world, and if lost in a young man, is seldom recovered. The discipline of desire is the background of character. Reading furnishes the mind only with materials of knowledge. It is thinking that makes what we read ours. Reverie is when ideas float in our mind without reflection or regard of the understanding. The great question which in all ages has disturbed mankind and brought on them the greatest part of their mischiefs has been not whether be power in the world, nor whence it came, but who should have it. No peace and security among mankind, let alone common friendship, can be maintained without justice. The necessity of pursuing true happiness is the foundation of all liberty. A sound mind in a sound body is a short but full description of a happy state in this world. Men have reason to be well satisfied with what God has done for them. There cannot be greater rudeness than to interrupt another in the current of his discourse. Where all is but dream, reasoning and arguments are of no use, truth and knowledge nothing. I have spent more than half a lifetime trying to express the tragic moment. Truth scarce ever yet carried it by vote anywhere at its first appearance. New opinions are always suspected, and usually opposed, without any other reason but because they are not already common. Revolt is the right of the people. The only fence against the world is a thorough knowledge of it. It is one thing to show a man that he is in an error, and another to put him in possession of truth. Our incomes are like our shoes. If too small, they gall and pinch us, but if too large, they cause us to stumble and to trip. The discipline of desire is the background of character. To love our neighbor as ourselves is such a truth for regulating human society that by that alone one might determine all the cases in social morality. As people are walking all the time in the same spot, a path appears. There is frequently more to be learned from the unexpected questions of a child than the discourses of men. It is easier for a tutor to command than to teach. Curiosity in children is but an appetite after knowledge. That which is static and repetitive is boring. That which is dynamic and random is confusing. In between lies art. The improvement of understanding is for two ends. First, our own increase of knowledge. Secondly, to enable us to deliver that knowledge to others. Nothing is in the intellect that was not first in the senses. The reason why men enter into society is the preservation of their property. An error is not a fault of our knowledge, but a mistake of our judgment, giving assent to that which is not true. Practice conquers the habit of doing without reflecting on the doing. Good and evil, reward and punishment are the only motives to a rational creature. Logic is the anatomy of thought. Reverie is when ideas float in our mind without reflection or regard of the understanding. Things of this world are in so constant a flux that nothing remains long in the same state. It is ambition enough to be employed as an under-labourer in clearing the ground a little and removing some of the rubbish that lies in the way to knowledge. How long have they been cheating you? Are you not ashamed to receive the truth only from hands full of falsehood? One unerring mark of the love of truth is not entertaining any proposition with greater assurance than the proofs it is built upon will warrant. There is frequently more to be learned from the unexpected questions of a child than the discourses of men. To prejudge other men's notions before we have looked into them is not to show their darkness, but to put out our own eyes. The business of education is not to make the young perfect in any one of the sciences, but so to open and dispose their minds as may best make them capable of any when they shall apply themselves to it. Reading furnishes the mind only with materials of knowledge. It is thinking that makes what we read ours. To give a man a full knowledge of morality, I would send him to no other book than the New Testament. The most precious of all possessions is power over ourselves.